Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination to cancelsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, and it's sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Oh, and it is your prerogative, DJ, to have a little fun. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Sing it.
Sing it. Oh, I'm going to revel in it. I'm going to bathe in it.
Bathe in it now. Bathe in college football on Saturday. A full-on schedule. Some teams opening with the gimmies. Looks like there's actually 10 of them in the Big 12. 6 games where the league can really build a reputation. Well, how do you like to open? Power 4 game or a cream puff? Frank wants a team somewhere in the middle. He'd appreciate a good G5 game. Kansas 31-7 over Fresno State. Case in point last weekend. Caleb says, Utah's playing UCLA. Isn't that the same thing? Ooh, a shot.
What?
UCLA's a cream puff, even though they're Power 4. I think it's Caleb's point. I think he's taking a shot.
Are they a cream puff? This is so much intrigue in this game with Nico Iamaleava to see what he can do. I'm looking at a story as we speak from the Los Angeles Times, the paper of record in the Southern California area. And he's the rare person who enjoys commuting on the 405 because he's come home. That was the lead. What do you want from me, man? He's the rare commuter enjoying his time on the 405 these days. Every pump of the brakes, every maddening mile in traffic that can be more stop than go puts him closer to hearing his dad's voice and seeing his mom smile. Well, you have to wonder, why doesn't he just stay on campus and FaceTime him? I mean, you can get both of those, right? But nevertheless, that's what he's doing. So there's so much hype. So is this team of Deshaun Foster's, is it a cream puff, or have they turned it around? I mean, you can't dismiss teams turning it around. When you look at, and Dillingham is the coach flavor of the month, this young, hot coach, right? I wonder if now we're going to go see 3 or 4 other teams hire 30-year-olds and thinking, well, look at that guy did. And so if they can do it, surely the Bruins can do it, and they've got a more established quarterback than Sam Levitt ever was. Now, you can argue strongly that Sam Levitt might be better than Iamaleava right now. I get that. But we're going back to this time last year, which is essentially where we are this year with UC Los Angeles. How good are they? Are they a cream puff? Are they something that is in the middle of, they're not great, but they're not a cream puff? And we're just talking about this team. We're not even talking about Utah. For some reason, we think Utah seems more established, but are they really compared to what Nico has done during his time at Tennessee? So what does that mean? Well, I think in the bottom line, to answer your question, I think this is the kind of game that we want as a sports fans, because it could be a 31-7, as you just said, Kansas and Fresno. If it were to be 31-7, I would strongly believe that it would be Utah having the 31, not the other way around. But trying to figure this baby out, who knows? But that's what we like. So the long-winded way to say, give me these types of games rather than the other type of games.
Don't you find that in the moment on weekend one, that's rewarding, but then we've seen it like when they Utes up into Florida or Michigan, then you get the money game week 2 or 3, and it's like, okay, wow. It's okay in the opener if you've got to discover things, plus you just celebrate football is back. So if you don't have in the opener, wouldn't you prefer just not to have it at all?
Well, as a fan, I'd prefer not to have it at all. Yeah, right. But I think that the opener gives you something to point toward for weeks and months, right? And we hear that. We know we got a tough battle right off the bat rather than whomever, Idaho State. And I realize they gave UNLV a good game and nothing against Idaho State, but they're the first ones that came to my mind because I always say Chico State. I thought I'd throw a curveball a little bit. Not even Shohei can throw the fastball every single pitch. You know what I mean?
Gotta throw the bender.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep them honest, right? I read a story, or I think I heard Greg Maddux, who was he might be the best pitcher, quote, pitcher of all time, right? Not just somebody who just overpowers, but works the plate inside, outside, upside, up, down, all corners of that dish, as we call it. And he knew that he was with the Braves, and they're playing some team, and it was maybe late August, early September, and that other team was going to be in the playoff. So he threw one of his specialty pitches that was a total meatball, and the guy hit it out of the park. And Maddox did that on purpose so he could set him up for the postseason. And to be able to throw the pitch much better. And the guy was thinking, oh, here's that meatball pitch that 4 weeks ago I hit out of the park. How about that? Is that the ultimate thinking man's game in sports? And, of course, if you're Greg Maddux, you can do that. 99.9% of the folks who ever have thrown a ball of any level can't do that. But that's just amazing as far as keeping them off key and off balance. And with this first game, now you went on a PK. What are we talking baseball again? Well, do we have some stuff if you play a good opponent that you can use to throw the teams off balance? You see what I did there? Drawing it together and making the analogy from one sport to the next? Yes, I think that's simply brilliant.
Ryan says, I'd rather they play a P2 team. If you lose, it's early. It'll be largely forgotten. You have to get your team ready early, but also get to learn what needs to be fixed early in the season. So Ryan didn't want Power 4. He wants Power 2. Of course, within the Power 2, there's still a wide range of teams. Teams you should blow out, teams you can beat, teams you got to play great to beat.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's all sorts of differences in what is the level of your team. But I think there's something to be said there. We talk about the teams making the most improvement from game 1 to game 2, and I like when we get to game 3, so then I don't have to hear the team makes its most improvement from game 1 to game 2. We hear that every freaking year, that even if it's not true, we believe it's been established fact in our minds. You know what I mean? And who knows if it's true. I don't know that you can put a blanket statement on it. But if you play a better team, maybe you can make that improvement. And we're looking at it a little skewed this year because if Retzlaff was still there, this game against Portland State, we're like, what a bore.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that you can prove. There's literally nothing that team could do, speaking of the Cougars, that would say, wow, they're better at this, they're better at that. No. Well, with Bachmeier there, it makes it a little bit different. And maybe you can argue it makes it a lot different. But that's sort of a circumstantial thing that works into BYU's favor that was not planned. Good for them to allow this kid to do it. That's why I said, among other reasons, since May, he is going to be the starter. Now, I never came out and literally said that because I don't want to burn people. But if you read between the lines and listen to the show, you know I said that. And one of the significant reasons was because they are playing Portland State. And then they do have Stanford. That's a P4 game. Stanford's down, but you can't blame BYU for scheduling the game. And then the East Carolina, they've got to follow up with a contract that they've had for years. And it made sense to me, we'll play Bachmeier now to get him ready because you're probably going to need him at some point during the season, so get him in there now. And plus he won the job. I mean, those two factors add up to him starting clearly. But I do think that if you're Utah, you can really go to town and learn about your team and then apply it next week. And for them, it sets up nice to where their first huge game, and I believe that both teams will possibly, maybe strongly, I believe, could be contenders in Texas Tech and Utah in that first game in the conference. And maybe even both teams are ranked, if that means anything to you. It gives it a little more juice.
They could be ranked. Things could break their way here out of the gate. We'll see how these other games go and see how dominant those two teams look.
Yeah.
Cream puff or P4 to open the season. Brad says if you're going to play a cream puff, you got to make it the first game. When you have these things to discover, I totally get Brad's logic here. Of all the times that can happen, the best time is the opener.
Why? Why though?
Because you got to think. Because as a fan, I find it interesting because there's something to discover. New quarterback or new players in a position group. You have questions about the D line or whatever. You can learn a little something.
Yeah, but I mean, the scheduling, it's just not that easy. Maybe you can have.
It's not.
If you want to play the better team, you have to play them in week 1 because their schedule doesn't allow you to play them in week 2. So you have to factor that stuff in too.
Absolutely, the TV networks are paying a lot of money, and they all want big games week 1 to televise because they don't want to show the cream puffs. So they're going to lean on you, and everybody in the conference can't say no. Somebody has to go ahead and play a made-for-TV game right out of the gate. And on the road, which the Utes are doing too. That's one thing no one's really talked about. If you get the P4 at home, do you feel more comfortable than if you have to go there? Obviously, the Utes went to Florida and lost.
Yeah, but that's a massive trip. This one isn't. This is down the street.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, just one time zone, not 2/3 of the way across the country.
And the Utes lost that game. I was in Gainesville less than 24 hours, man. I got in around 5 o'clock.
You were on the Chris Camrani plane.
I was out of there the next morning, first flight out. Got a little nervous with the delay in St. Louis, but was only about a 45-minute delay, so you'll take that. And it was like, Florida, they're better. Florida wasn't better than we thought.
Yeah.
The Utes just didn't play well. But what did it do to deter their goals? Nothing.
Mike wants the cream puff. Reed wants a cream puff because we're starting a freshman QB. James, give me a P4 cream puff. There's lots of those to choose from.
Yes, but you don't really know.
Nope. Not if you're doing it 3-4 years out, especially with the transfer portal. And some of them are obviously done 6-7 years out.
I would say most especially with the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's just accelerated everything.
That we don't know. Things are dramatically changing literally right before our eyes, right? And we'll see. It'll be interesting to see these Big 12 teams that surprised us last year when we fast forward to December to say, okay, that was sort of a you got things broke your way, it all came together, you got scatterboo, whatever it might be. Or, wow, that program has turned it around. Let's look at this, man. Are they on to something, And when I say they, I'm talking about the teams that we had at the bottom in terms of preseason expectations that ended up at the top, and those clearly would be BYU, ASU, and Colorado, And are they really honest? Because if Colorado does it this year, well, it can't be, Deion just had some talent that he brought with him. No. The excuses then for Deion, if they have a 7-2 season in the Big 12, they're out the window. And it's time to acknowledge that coach, that staff, as pretty good. Now, I realize they've got an experienced veteran quarterback coming in from Liberty, and he's going to start at least the beginning, and the hotshot freshman, we'll see when he gets in.
But that's part of the deal. I mean, lots of teams are bringing in hotshot quarterbacks who got a couple of years under their belt.
Right. Meaning that you then have to answer the bell. If, say, Colorado, just for argument's sake, does have a 9-3, 7-2 type season, right? And, okay, well, you did it with this guy, you did it with that guy. Can you do it a third year? It's like it never ends. You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't, yeah. What have you done for me lately?
I think it sort of ends. I get your point, DJ, and largely you're correct, so I can't come down on you and calling you the blithering idiot that I normally would like to do. But I think that a team like Utah has earned the right to just say that was a blip from a bad standpoint. The teams like BYU, Colorado, ASU, I think even if they have good seasons this year, then we're all going to say, wow, can they follow it up? You see what I'm saying? Whereas if Utah put together a traditional Utah season last year, follows it up with the Utah season this year that we've come to expect out of the Utes. We wouldn't say going into the third year, into the 26th season, well, let's see if they can do it again. You see what I'm saying there?
I do. I just think in this case, and maybe in this regard, Kyle Whittingham was in a better spot, 3 to 5 years ago than he is now. But because they've had the 2 seasons with quarterback injuries and they've had 8 wins and 5 wins, and because there are rivalries and people have agendas and other people, like to say outrageous stuff and get clicks, like the game has passed him by. So in a way, even Kyle's on notice, and I think he feels it to a degree. I think that's why he keeps using the word debacle to describe last season. And he's out to show that was just circumstances. It wasn't him, the backup quarterback is a true freshman. The starter got hurt game 2. These things happen, The games were close. They're competitive. If the offense is a little better, they could have won another 3 or 4 games. But he's got to go out and prove it. He can't have another 5-7, even if he does have another early quarterback injury.
Sure, right. There's no question. I do believe that coaches, from my experience, put way more pressure on themselves than the general public does. Now, they'll say
that
nobody has higher expectations. I understand that. But I think that even when it's going good, they put pressure on themselves. They're sort of a paranoid people. There's very few, and maybe Kyle's at that spot now where it felt like, hey, I've arrived. I know I can do this. We're going to be good simply because this is what we do. This is what I do. I think there's maybe 2 handfuls of coaches who think that. But the rest of them are thinking. I mean, I can recall Majerus when they brought in a university president from some other place. I think it was Michigan. He felt like he was coaching for his job. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Well, and I do think there are people out. I mean, Kirby Smart at Georgia, in no way, shape, or form is he coaching for his job. But I do feel like Ryan Day, who just won the national championship. Man, if he's 9-2 going into that last game, he better beat Michigan. You don't want to have to answer for another rivalry game loss in 9-3, which is not a terrible season, but at Ohio State it's unacceptable. And another Michigan loss, unacceptable. So even if
the Michigan stuff is growing.
Yeah, the pressure's on him now, I think even Texas and Ohio State out of the gate here. Sarkisian. He's had a couple jobs, and there's been a lot of pressure on him. He was labeled the king of 7-6 at Washington. He seems to have taken some of that and gotten rid of it at Texas, but I don't think he's gotten rid of all of it.
Has.
And if they go to Ohio State and get beat,
rid of all of it.
Well, win a national championship.
Yeah, but
that's a high bar. I get it. But these people
can't be paid $8, $9, $10 million and have no pressure. It just doesn't work that way.
I agree. I totally agree. And the money is part of the pressure. It's only year 2 for the staff at Alabama, but it's feeling a little bit. And I think Penn State's like Texas, where it's win the big one. Where's the conference championship and the national championship? Or the conference championship or the national championship.
But
the bar gets set in different places.
From the fan base has that level, but have you ever heard any authority at Penn State come out and say he's fighting for his job?
No, they got something in common with the Pittsburgh Steelers right down the road. That doesn't seem to be how they work.
I think there's some sanity there.
Yep.
Hey, this guy's good. We got a good program. Are we the elite of the elite? Maybe in a given year, remains to be seen. But we're not going to go crazy here because even when Smart wasn't doing that at Georgia, now has been able to do it, it seemed like we're going to stay there. And so there's something to be said. And I told you and I and Yak were talking the other day, and I was telling you about some friends that are Ute fans when they lost in the Pac-12 title game. We got to make a change. No, you don't. I mean, come on. There has to be some level of sanity that if you turn in a 10-4 season that includes some big-time wins and going to an elite bowl, and even though you lost, okay, but you don't make changes in those situations. So I think by and large, there's very few. Look at who did that. Was it Nebraska fired somebody
Solich
at 9-3?
Solich was averaging 9 wins a year, and they ran him.
Was that? Yeah.
Yeah, and after they ran Solich, they've
Why?
never been able to get back to that.
Right. So back off. I think we've backed off that a little bit as an industry of going crazy on that. And you can have a really good team and still not get all the way. It would be like the Jazz if Larry Miller came in and said, "Man, we got to get rid of Jerry Sloan. He's not getting us over the top." Well, they never did that. And they were right never to do that because they were competitive for almost 2 full decades. And there's a lot to be said for that. Particularly as the years go by, you can see, man, there was really a lot to say for that. Because only one team at the pro level is getting over the top. The college level, you don't necessarily have to get over the top to have a really good season. Now, there's maybe 5 schools where you do, 5 programs, but the rest, no. And they're going to be content winning a lot of ball games, selling out stadiums, merchandising flying off the racks, all the things that define a big-time program, which is what the U of U is and has been now for a good while.
DJ and PK, everything you missed in this show. What did Kelly Poppinga have to say about BYU's opener? We talked with the defensive ends coach and special teams coordinator. We'll tell you about that next. Barry Trammell joined us to talk Big 12 football. There's one team he thinks definitely has to win and help the Big 12 out this weekend. And Wayne Cook, UCLA sideline reporter. We'll get you up to speed on all those conversations next. Stay with us. 9 a.m. Slacker Ready Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. Kelly Poppinga, BYU defensive ends coach and special teams coordinator, joined us back in the 7 a.m. hour. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Talked a little bit about the preparation, the balance between, which Jay Hill was just talking about, playing the starters and trying to work on the depth. And he did address the elephant in the room. How do you get the team fired up when Tarleton State just smoked Portland State 42-0? And it was simple. Go with you only get to do this 12 times. Don't waste one. Don't mail it in. Not the first coach to say it, not the last coach. And the math is on their side.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they need to be fired up. I think the fact that it's the first game will get you excited enough. And you do, besides you only get 12, you get half of that at home. And every kid has said it is special to come down that tunnel, that ramp on, what would that be, the south east side onto the stadium. I mean, come on. If that doesn't give you a buzz, a natural buzz, then you shouldn't be playing. But I don't want the team to play its best ball in its first game. I want there to be a few mistakes that they can build on, keep them hungry, because there's 2 things that BYU football needs to be, you guys. It needs to be hungry and it needs to be humbled. You understand?
What did you take away from our conversation with Kelly Poppinga?
Kelly is a great interview. He brings energy, he brings insight, he brings passion, and he does it in a manner that's relatable. His brother tends to be over the top, but that's what makes Brady unique, and that's what makes Kelly who Kelly is. It's funny, you got the same guys from the same DNA, the same family, the same everything, and one is psycho, and the other is psycho in a controlled way, which is sort of an oxymoron, right? But thinking about that and what they talk about the pass rush, the number one thing for BYU as far as defensively for me is the pass rush. So they have got to find a way to bring that quarterback down. I mean, it just has to be. You're going to go in a conference where they can throw the ball, right? So you're going to have to do that. And then talking about the linebacker core, if you're using the names Van Noy and Warner, you have my attention.
Barry Trammell joined us, sports columnist for the Tulsa World. Barry says Baylor's got to win. The middle or maybe even top of the Big 12 versus probably the lower portion of the SEC. And the games in Waco must get W.
Doesn't that just scream BYU, oh, yeah, you beat them, but they had a down year?
It's possible.
Right. I mean, that's where the perception and the advantages are going to slide towards the big boys all the time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if Baylor wins that game, is you got to win it. I agree with you, and I agree with what he's saying. But you wonder, well, yeah, it's going to be a yeah, but. I mean, there's only been one game in the history of BYU that was considered a big game that didn't have a yeah, but, right? And that's Miami. It seemed like for years, and it used to drive me nuts. Like, what do you want these guys to do? They go and they beat Notre Dame. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Penn State. I think they beat Penn State.
They did.
Right? Yeah. And wow, yeah, well, yeah, but it's like, oh my gosh, are they ever going to get any due? Is it constantly going to be yeah, but? And as I look at that game with Baylor, I wonder if that's the same thing that we'll hear.
Possibly, yes. I think the key is that multiple teams need to get 3-0 and win that one big game on their schedule. And then hopefully someone out of that, or maybe a couple teams, go 8-1. Now you got a couple 11-1 teams. Now you can get a couple teams in the playoff. Maybe you could do the ACC deal where a 10-2 team beats an 11-1 team. 11-1 team gets in anyway. But I really do think they need schools getting 8-1. 8-1 in the league, 11-1 overall. That's got to be the goal. If they beat each other up like last year, well, then the playoffs look like last year. You'll get one.
Did they really beat each other up?
Well, the conference did. The top
close.
4 didn't because they didn't all play.
Did ASU beat up BYU, or did they simply escape with a win?
Well, they beat up their record. I get your point. It wasn't a case of, they got beat by 3 or 4 scores. That wasn't the issue. The game had plenty of drama and it went right down to the end, and they had to clear the field, as they so often do. BYU has a knack for that. The field is stormed. Wait, the game's not over. Clear the field. We'll keep playing.
Yeah. I just think that your mark needs to sell that. I said it yesterday when we were doing the college football roundtable at Kenny J's, where, man, that was some good eating. If you're looking for barbecue, go to the district, get yourself some Kenny J. You should have seen
when he brought those
plates out. They had all sorts of food there, and DJ's eyes lit up like I've never seen before.
It's not like we can eat. How about this? How about this? Somebody, and I don't want to say who, but somebody into a microphone said, well, it's not like we can eat that in a break. I looked at PK and said, speak for yourself.
I was about to say,
PK just about came out of his chair. This guy.
Challenge accepted.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah. You consume food so rapidly, about as fast as anybody I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a great life skill.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say you eat a lot. Maybe sometimes you do. Sometimes we all overeat in a given meal. It's not about the quantity. It's just the rapidity in which you can inhale it. It's like, whew, and it's gone. Man,
I blame radio.
Or that.
Cold eggs into breakfast. Nope. Got it. Yeah, one commercial break and go. By the second commercial break, the eggs are cold. No, thank you. 20 minutes
I would
later.
say credit. I wouldn't say blame.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a great life skill. I don't know. Kids, don't try this at home.
Doesn't matter. I don't know what the health benefits for or against are, but you certainly can eat fast. And as I said yesterday, I think they should sell the quality of the league. And so many of these teams and leagues and conferences, it's a sales pitch. And we act like, oh my gosh, if they have 3 teams at 7-2 and 2 of them get there, that it's just a death knell for the conference. Why can't they pump up the fact that, man, we've got some really good teams here, and that's why that they're close games. No one's beating each other up. You may beat the other team because there's a winner and loser in every single game, but they're not beating each other up. It's just not happening.
This is the argument for the Big 12 swinging behind the Big 10's proposal to go to 24 teams and automatic berths. Because there's one of those, I think maybe it was the 2018, where it's like, well, 7 teams from the SEC and the Big 10 and 5 from the ACC and the Big 12. Well, then if you have a bunch of good teams that are 9-3 or 10-2, if they can get in and if they can win playoff games, now the argument's made for you. No one can shoot you down at that point. I don't think that's going to happen, at least not right away. It may one day. But I do think that
well, that's an
opportunity.
That's an excellent point that you said right there. It may not happen today, but how about tomorrow?
Well, the other leagues, the other divisions, D3, D2, and the FCS have gradually over time built bigger playoffs, going 8 teams, 16, 24. One of them, it might be D3. I think somebody did go 32, and they don't have as much money at stake. Those games, obviously, at the FBS level would be worth a lot more money. And, the answer to all your questions is money. Yeah. So why not do it? Now, maybe they don't want to do it too quickly because it sure would be hard to go back. It doesn't seem like anybody really does that. Once the playoffs are expanded, they stay there.
Oh, yeah. I think we all see that,
right,
as the likely scenario. And then when you get in these games, you're going to have to do well.
Yep.
And I think they're 1-0 in terms of showing well in the playoff.
Yep.
Right. I realize they're 0-1.
0-1 on the scoreboard, but they did show well.
Yeah. Right. And so then every single last Big 12 fan needs to, not that their rooting interest has anything to do with it, but I think that's what they need to do, root like crap for the other Big 12 teams, because that's going to benefit you possibly someday and maybe sooner than you think, because it's imperative that this playoff does not become what the College World Series was 2 years ago, where it was just two conferences versus each other and all the other conferences got left out. And them 60, they have a massive 64-team deal, so at least you can get in the playoff. But still, when they got to Omaha, only two conferences represented was not good. That would be even worse if that's what the football ended up being as we get down to the Final Four, say 5 years in a row of Big Ten, SEC. That just wouldn't be a good look.
The interesting thing about this opening weekend is with so many money games, the competitive Big 12 games are largely in prime time. TCU and North Carolina in that Monday Night Football spot. Utah, UCLA, it's not prime time in the East, it's prime time in the West. But really, Saturday, until we get to that Utah-UCLA game, the conference better be undefeated. You don't really want to have to explain even one loss earlier in the day. They better win them all. Friday night in primetime, there's a couple good games. That's where Auburn-Baylor is, and that's where the Georgia Tech-Colorado game is. So those two are good.
Yeah, I don't think a ton of people will see the Utah game to completion.
Right.
But the East Coast lives a later life than we do. So, especially on a Saturday night, I don't think they'll have a lot of eyeballs at 2 in the morning, unless you have a specific reason.
But 11 o'clock.
Some people,
11 o'clock kickoff in the East, people could still be up till halftime.
Right, because isn't that when Saturday Night Live is going on?
That's exactly the deal, right?
Yeah, and people watch it back there, so they just live a later life for whatever reason. So there should be a fair amount of eyeballs on that one. It's important, and I know you BYU fans would not heed this advice at all, but it's good for your conference, and they are your conference mates now, to have them win, because that could benefit you come December. I mean, a literal benefit could be had by BYU with Utah winning.
100%.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to write a story.
For me to say.
Yeah, somebody's going to write a story after week one. Is the Big 12 6-0 versus the power leagues?
Yeah.
And you need the answer to that question to be yes. Because if they're 3-3 or 4-2, they're okay. And then you'll get into, like you said, they're 3-3 and 4-2, but who'd they beat? Whereas like 6-0, it's like they beat everybody. And if you want them to be tested more, well, the other people need to be better. What else were they supposed to do?
Yeah. And I do think if you've come from a print background, your nature is to find stories that promote the underdog, that promote the second-class citizen, so to speak. That's basically what print people think they are. They're the voice for the voiceless in a dramatic sense. And in the sports world, if you can get whomever, pick your favorite local, or not local, but national writer, who can crack on the big boys, they're going to do it. But you got to provide them the ammunition to allow them to do it.
Wayne Cook, UCLA sideline reporter, joined us, and his take basically was, there's a lot nobody knows about UCLA, so watch the game. It can't be known. It can't be known. We're going to just have to watch the game.
I do think that in my conversations with some folks that I know, that there is a level of optimism. Now, is it justified? It's skeptical optimism, but they feel like, and Nico bringing his pedigree to the quarterback position combined with the transfer portal, they feel like, maybe they could be better than what people anticipate 4-8. But I get that. Most schools, most programs are thinking that right now. It remains to be seen.
Wayne Cook, UCLA sideline reporter, Ute fans, wherever you get your podcast, go listen to him on the game. Kelly Papinga, BYU defensive ends coach for you Cougars, wherever you get your podcasts. And Barry Trammell talking all things Big 12. They're all out there available. Yak could list everywhere, but it'd take him till 10 o'clock, wouldn't it, Yak? Everywhere.
Wherever you get your podcasts, just get it.
DJ and PK, when we come back, what have you got to say about today's show? We'll do that next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are so close to the opener, PK. Can feel it. One more show, then we got a game. Okay. You have any final words of inspiration?
Final words for today or final words before the kickoff?
Either. Well, no, you got a whole show tomorrow. For today.
Yeah. Today, if you missed it, today was a great show. Today we had football wall to wall, and it's that time of year to go wall to wall football. We had 3 great guests. I thought it was one of our better shows, man, with all this excitement, because you can feel it, man. There's a buzz. Season is here now. We're done with the, we're tired of hitting on each other and all that's out the window, and it's time to play ball. What do you got? This is what you've been working for. This is why you lift those weights when no one's watching. This is why you run those sprints when no one's watching. This is why you have attention to detail and watch all that film when no one's watching.
Before we get to the feedback, one quote just in from Denver. Zach Stevens covers the Broncos, and he tweeted out this quote from the Broncos GM talking about Karenni Reed making the team. Karenni Reed is, quote, everything we want in a football player. We've had some luck with these Utah guys. Smart, instinctive. I think he meant instinctive, but either way.
They're extinct.
Extinctive, which is actually a word. He didn't make it up. It describes something that causes the end or destruction of something else.
I understand, yes.
Huh.
I've been trying to extinct you for a while. What here that they're missing is that I think it's clear you come on our show on a weekly basis, you make the Denver Broncos roster.
Devon Vele, Karenni Reed, boom, boom.
Yes.
Tell the Broncos GM not to work so hard. Tell them just to call us. We'll tell them what's what.
Right. Yes.
This is how it works, big guy.
We know.
We'll keep you up to speed.
Well, those are 2 high-character kids, obviously.
Absolutely. And if they Googled them, which I would expect they would do as part of their background, they could actually listen to the interviews because they'd hear the podcasts. They could figure it out for themselves. They could hear Devon Vele talk about wanting to be go to engineering school and have a construction company, but the football schedule conflicted, so that'll have to wait for later.
And I remember Karenni Reed, we were talking about his girlfriend who became his wife, and it was a situation where she moved in, I believe it was from Portland, and moved into his ward, the local congregation, and we were teasing him about, he identified her early and said, well, what did you do to make your move? And I remember his quote was, I did what I had to do.
Oh, man, it sounds like a mob movie all of a sudden.
Do you remember when he said that?
Bob's over there making his move. I'm going to have to break Bob's fingers. Break his hand.
Oh, he did. What he did?
I did what I had to
It's
do.
not by any means necessary. He did what he had to do. And now, yes, he scored a touchdown, so to speak.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Jake and Ben are coming up next. Have a good day, and we will talk to you tomorrow on a Football Friday.